Welcome back to the Real Estate Success Partner. I'm your host, Devin Dubuque, and today I've got returning co-host Dom Arias. You know him, you love him, back from Lincoln, Nebraska. And Dom, brother, you've got somebody pretty amazing on with us today. Who'd you bring along today, brother?
Yeah, today I brought Mr. Adam Wiekamp, a great realtor here in Lincoln out of Home Real Estate. So he's doing a lot of great things, been in the industry for quite some time. So, excited to have him on the show, and he's hosted me today. So, Adam, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Adam, appreciate you coming on, man. Thanks for taking the time. We know you've got a lot going on. You're a mover and a shaker. And here you are. We landed you on the show. So thanks for taking some time out of your schedule today, brother.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
So let's let the audience get to know you a little bit. Nestled right in there to the center of the heartland, Lincoln, Nebraska. And is that where you're from originally?
So yeah, I grew up in rural Nebraska, a small community about 3 hours from Lincoln called O'Neill, Nebraska. It is the Irish capital of Nebraska, but moved to Lincoln to go to the university, which is a common story in our city, and then stuck around. So been in Lincoln for quite some time now, and this is definitely home now.
I love it, man. I love it. So went to school with dreams and aspirations of being in the real estate market.
Uh, no, like many, I kind of wandered into it. I did my schooling in business, so that was very applicable, which was nice. I did a management information systems degree and then a master's in business administration as well, in strategic management. So those applied very nicely. I kind of got into real estate more as a practitioner though, as an investor. So
Oh, nice.
shortly after graduating from school, bought a rental property. People were making money everywhere in the early 2000s, and
Yeah.
my brother and I thought we need to make money somewhere, and so we thought maybe buying an old fixer-upper property was a good way to do it.
Do you still have it?
My brother actually recently just sold it, so we have all the others we bought.
Yeah.
So we've kind of done some rental real estate, and that was how I got into real estate many years ago.
So the first property brothers. And, I think it's a running trend. We've had a few agents on from Lincoln, and literally every single one that we've brought in says, I started off investing for myself,
Yeah.
and it just happened to stumble into a career, right? So
It's
what were you doing when you bought that first property? What was the original title, right?
Yeah, so we bought, and it wasn't actually in Lincoln. So it was in another community in Nebraska. It was in Wayne, where there's a state college. And so probably maybe you've had some other investors that way too, but there are some college towns in Nebraska, and it's
There are.
good way to get tenants.
That's
And
smart.
that's probably a whole nother episode, but there's some real benefits to renting to students.
No, it's smart.
There's
Yeah.
pros and cons, right, versus traditional tenants, but there's some real pros to it too. So we were able to buy one and then buy another one, and we bought a handful for several years, and then just was working a full-time W-2 job the whole time. That was
Yeah. What was the job? What was the W-2 job?
kind of my jobs early on. I was always in. I did some software support. Then got into more of the IT roles, doing some network management, customer support in the IT world too. So always in a customer-facing, customer service-oriented sort of a job as I did my day job.
There it is. Well, you brought it up, so let's throw one of those strategies out there. You do this for yourself, but I'm going to throw one out. That if you're a parent and you've got a student that's about to start school, right? This is a really great strategy, which is to find a property or a multi-unit property, preferably in the town that your child intends to go to school, and you can purchase that property as a primary residence for your student who's going to be going to school, which means small down payment, right? Instead of having to have that big 15, 20, 25% down. If you got it, great. If you don't, it's not required. And now your student can occupy one of those units, and you can rent out the other 3 units to their friends or other people there that are attending the school, and now you're building wealth while your son or daughter are attending school. And what a lot of parents like to do with that is gift that property over to the student so that when they graduate, they've already starting off with a little bit of a nest egg, right? And you're building equity and wealth while attending school. And I think it's a great strategy. That's just one of them. I think, what you're talking about, Adam, is, hey, we bought the properties and we leased them out ourselves. And, I'm assuming were a few of those multi-units, or was it all single unit
You
family
know, we
residences?
we we did a little bit of each,
Mhm.
mostly single families. Then we got a duplex, and then we had a fourplex, and so we did a little bit of each, kind of primarily the single family homes. And
Hmm.
just to piggyback on what you said, I'm surprised more parents don't consider it. Even here in Lincoln, we have a
Yeah.
Big Ten university, 25,000 students. I'm helping a family right now from about 2 hours away, and they're doing that for their daughter. And every time you help someone with it, you're like, this just makes so much sense, right?
Yeah.
In our market, in the time I've been doing it in the last 20 years, we've seen a huge influx of big student housing complexes, out of state money, big, really nice places, right? You rent a 3 or 4 bedroom place with other people, but you have your own individual lease and you pay six, seven, $800 a piece for your nice room with
Yeah.
granite counters, and it's way nicer than anything I ever lived in, but you're paying maybe twice what you could pay if you rented a house or if you bought a house, even better. And so I'm totally with you. I'm surprised more parents don't consider it. No, there's some challenges to it too. And
Of course.
if your kiddo is maybe not a great in-house landlord, then
Right. Yeah.
maybe that's a no-go. But for a lot of people, it would make a lot of sense. And then yeah, you have something to show for 3, 4, 5, or sometimes people have multiple kids, right? You can get 5 or 6, 7 years that you need a house in Lincoln for someone to stay in, and it makes so much sense.
What about
Well,
a
one thing we know, Adam, is homes tend to appreciate 5.5% per year, right? So as they're living in that property, they're building wealth, and it actually pays for some of that tuition in the long run, right? So, maybe you say you're surprised a lot of people don't do this. Well, maybe, now that the cat is out of the bag and we've got this great podcast vessel here to deliver that information out there to folks, hey, if you are interested in doing something like that, call Adam, and he'll help you find the property.
There's
And
one.
call Dom. He'll get the darn thing financed for you. Together, you've got the perfect duo right here
I gotta
on the
call it
show
my
today.
parents, man. Like 14 kids in my family. It'd be a generational
You'd have it for 30
down the
years.
line. Yeah, it'd be paid off by the time all the kids get through that, making money and get paid off. Yeah.
That's
And that
true.
we
That's
are
true.
still a Midwestern city, so between 200 and 250, like you can buy a good place. So
Oh yeah.
250,000, you buy a nice 3, maybe 4 bedroom house. All right, that's great. You can cook with that, and
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can be a really good situation for your family.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear that. We're out here in DFW. As you can speak, you can see the hustle bustle in the background, and you're not finding much for 250 out here,
Yeah,
so
right.
it's refreshing to know, hey, if my student says, hey, they want to attend, in Nebraska, and they're, like you said, not to the big schools, but you guys have a lot of smaller schools as well, right? And at the end of the day, a lot of opportunity to get great education and build wealth while you're doing it. So, but let's get back over to you, Adam. So you had the foresight to say, hey, you know what, I'm in this W-2 position, but why not build a little bit of wealth in the background? And so you guys start scooping up these properties. This is before you transition into real estate. Now, before we go down that road, how much real estate do you have today? You don't have to, just how many doors? How many doors do you have today?
Sure. And so I've done it a little different. We got up to the point where we had 8 properties. My brother and I kind of split. He did his thing. He kind of moved down to your area, DFW. So I just have 4 properties today. I haven't continued to grow it. I got married, got family stuff that slowed
Yep.
down the acquisitions a little bit. But I can also say that after this many years, I have a lot of equity in those properties, right?
Yeah.
And so as the tenants have helped raise that meter and get a lot of equity. So I have 4 properties. One's a duplex, 3 are single families.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. And that's what it's all about, right? If you want to set yourself up for long-term wealth, start buying the properties early on. And as you grow, so does your capital, right? So, and a lot of people will also take, those properties as they build wealth, and they'll draw money from those properties to buy the next one and the next one. And before you know it, you could have 30 doors if that's the path you want to take, right? But at the end of the day, if you've just got four, and you're building that long-term growth, when you look back and it is time to retire, you might be able to do that a little earlier than somebody else because you've got the foresight to see a good thing coming, right? So
And it's a different vehicle or a different vehicle for your investment too, right? As just think of the past 10 days,
Oh yeah.
what people that for the like my time in the workforce, right? For the past 20 years, people that just do a traditional 401k, just do traditional equities, all that sort of stuff. Woo,
Oh yeah.
right? Maybe they didn't
Yeah.
sleep great the past week, but my little 100-year-old rental house in the middle of Lincoln, steady, right?
That
So
would
I got
hurt
a
me a
call,
little bit,
but
Adam.
I got a steady investment, and it's slowly going up, right? So yeah,
Yeah. You know, as somebody who does have a 401k and some investments, I've got other things as well, right? You know, that one stabbed me right in the heart too, man. You know, to look up and see that hard-earned savings, deplete that quick, right? You know, at the end of the day, you know, it's a tough day when you see that happen. You know, but when you've got this long-term wealth that you develop through real estate, sure, we have some markets, but you know, if you look back over the last 80 years, we've only had 7 markets where homes have depreciated. Seven out of 80. That's
yeah,
not too bad, right? You know, so, you know, where's the smart move to put your investments? It's in real estate, right? You know, real estate is the big winner. I don't think you're going to get those odds in Vegas, right?
yeah.
Or even in your 401k, right? You know, and that's what we're talking about right here. So, so you get involved in investing, you're buying and selling and leasing properties with your brother and, you know, the original property brothers. And you find yourself at some point saying, hey, you know what, maybe I need to make a transition. How'd that happen? How'd you get from your space with a cushy W-2 job, right? Over here to, hired gunslinger?
Sure. So I talked about it for a long time. It had kind of been on the periphery. In the meantime, there, I'd gotten married, and my wife finally just said, "Well, you need to either just do this or just maybe give up the dream," right? She got tired of me talking about it. So finally, I waited till I was married and had a baby at home, and then I said, "Yeah, I'll do this 100% 1099 job." So in 2011, then I did the education and did the test, finally got my license then after many years of thinking about it, dreaming about it, considering it.
You picked a pretty decent time. You know, I mean, we were coming right off of a really difficult market, right? 2008,
Right.
2009, 2010. If you were paying attention to this space, it wasn't the greatest industry to be in. There's just a lot going on, right? You know, subprime market crashed. We found out we shouldn't have been lending to a whole lot of people. People lost a lot of money. Nobody wanted to lend on new properties, and that affected us across the board. But 2011, that's where things started to repair. It still wasn't a great market, but it was definitely a better market. And you said, "Hey, look, I'm going to take a gamble and go all in here." And look what's happened as a result, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And my path's a little different too. I did kind of keep a side job. So I was one of those people, many people wouldn't recommend it, but I did it where I would kept a traditional job, and it went down eventually to a part-time situation. And so that was really nice. So after 2 or 3 years of trying to do a full-time W-2 job, I went down to part-time on that job, and then kept that for several years, and then eventually went to full-time in real estate. So that was kind of my path. I know everybody does it a little different. Many gurus would say you got to go 100%, but that wasn't how I did it. I did it gradually over several years, and I'm glad that was just my path. So it worked
well,
out.
I'm glad you went there because I was literally about to ask that question. You know, if you had to do it all over again,
Yeah.
would you take the same path?
I think I would. I probably would have accelerated it. There is something to be said for doing something for your full week, right? There is something
Yeah.
for only having one thing to put your focus on and your energy on. So probably I would have cut the time probably in half looking back. And I think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
went just fine, but you're in the middle of it. And anyway, I did. So my path was good. I'm glad I had it. I think looking back, could I have tweaked that
Accelerated it.
timeline? I would have accelerated it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think, that's pretty wise because what we all know is when you first get in, it's not at all what you expected, right?
Correct.
it's,
Correct.
it's a whole different animal, right? And you need a little time for mentorship. And I'm not saying don't go all in, right? You know, if you're the all in kind of person, go all in,
Some
right?
people do it. Yeah, they have great success.
That's important, but at the end of the day, you do have a learning curve. There's a period of time there where you're figuring out the lay of the land, and it's not just about building the client base; it's also about understanding how to properly serve the client, right? And so, what was the biggest growth point that you found in that first, couple of years, right? Where you said, "Man, I'm glad that I took the time to learn this."
Yeah. I guess I would think even I can just remember back. I've got a little thing on my wall here in my office, just from the first listing, right? You always kind of remember that, and so um, I really remember that one. It was friends. They were kind of peers, same age. They had been tenants. They had lived in one of my properties. then they bought a house, and then they were relocating, and so I got to help them sell their home, right? And that was yeah, I knew them, right? I knew them pretty well, had known them
Yeah.
for years at that point, had good relationships outside of any business dealings, and was able to really provide a good service that they really needed at that point, right? The real estate function is a vital one when people
It
need it.
is.
So I remember that listing like it was yesterday, and sitting there in their living room and being scared as all get out, and going through that contract, that listing agreement. But yeah, I remember that vividly still to this day, and that was a good moment, and that was many years ago now at this point. So,
Sweating bullets a little bit. I hope this
was.
goes well, right? I can imagine there's a little prep going into this thing.
Right?
Like I
Yeah,
can see you sitting on the couch, like, okay, we're doing. I think it's
there we
going
go.
good.
This is for real, yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. So that was a pivotal point for you. But what was the moment when you said, "Man, this is the right choice. Like this is where I want to be, right? Like I'm good with moving forward from here."
Sure. I guess I'm thinking of another kind of anecdote. This is one where, well, and talk about pressure. I had my in-laws' house listed. So pressure, right?
Okay, yeah.
This was
No, none
mom
at all.
right? They had a nice house, so for me it was a good price point. Um, and it was a little slower, right?
Yeah,
It was just wasn't a crazy market at this time trying to sell it. Well, some people came in, they wanted to buy it, but they had a house to sell that was currently listed with someone else, and it wasn't going great. But so they said, "All right, we want you to sell our house." So they got out of their contract. It was all above board. We did it the right way. But then we had to get two houses sold to get
yeah,
the in-laws house sold. And so and then that we got it done, right? We got the first house sold, we got the in-laws house sold, and it all eventually got taken care of. But that was one where you're like, oh wow, we're really in this, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of dominoes in this train
yeah.
here. It all has to happen, and there's people counting on me here, and this has to happen. So anyway, that was a really kind of fun welcome to real estate. Um, let's get this done. Let's go, right? Let's go. It was
My
like,
man almost pulled off a hat trick.
here it is. Yeah, and I just had to, but yes, it was almost. So that was
So how,
fun.
how'd
And
you do
that
it
was
though?
fairly
How'd you
early
get the
on.
other house sold? Like, what was, because that's a lot of pressure, right? Like, hey, you better get this thing done. I'm trying to sell my house.
Yeah,
And now we're bound up in this thing. We got two properties. You're
yeah,
trying to sell the other one. How'd you
yep.
do it? What was the trick?
And I guess that's probably how I kind of do my business. I don't think there was really anything super special, but
Yeah.
I just, you got to do the work, and you got to show up, and you can't cut corners, right?
Mm,
And so it's true in any profession, in my former jobs, it's true in this job.
Hmm.
Don't expect it to happen. You gotta get there. You gotta do
gonna
all the
make it
work. You
happen.
gotta have the measurements. You gotta have a good listing. You gotta have good photos. You gotta have the time to know the property. You gotta know the people. You gotta know the players involved. There's a lot of moving parts in any deal, and then you take it times two and all of that. So I guess that's kind of my general overall thought, kind of looking back, bigger picture.
Yeah.
Do the work. Show up. Don't expect it's just gonna sell, or don't expect that listing is gonna look good online to Joe Buyer if you don't
Right.
put in some time, right? If
Yeah.
you don't make sure it's there, make sure that the data's there, make sure the spirit of the house is in those remarks, right? Just put in a little time, make
Be
it,
resourceful, and that's it, right? At the end of the day, it's hard work. And if you put in the work and you do it the right way, you can make it happen, but it's not cutting corners. And I love that, and, if you're a home buyer out there and you're listening in, or somebody that's interested in the market and you want to know who to represent you, you need somebody like Adam, or better yet, if you're in Lincoln, you need Adam. You need somebody that's not going to cut those corners, and that's going to get out there and do what it takes, to get your home marketable, right? And guide you through. That's what it is all about, working with the right business partners. You may have a buddy or a friend that's a realtor. The question is are they actually practicing real estate, or do they just hold the title? Right.
yeah,
I've had, rookie realtors that have trumped veterans, right? Meaning closing hundreds of deals a year, right? Who's the real rookie at that point in time? It's the person who's closing the loans, right? And Adam, my brother, I know you're closing the loans. I've seen your production report, and when you want to work with a professional, you go to the one that gets the job done, right? That's what it's all about. Just like, when you're a contractor and you want to use a tool, you're going to use the tool that's going to get the job done, right? When you want to sell your house or purchase another one, You want to work with somebody that's going to get the job done, the right tool for the job. So I love to hear that story, man, because again, you're right. It's one thing to have to sell somebody else's house and sell another house on top of it. You add another layer of difficulty when it's an in-law,
Yeah, yeah,
and you
right.
can't disappoint, right?
No, it's not really an option.
Yeah, yeah.
My man, I love it. Well, so what's the vibe look like today, right? Like, so you've been doing this for if I'm doing my math right, about 14 years.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is it just you out there, man? Just making it happen? You got a
Yeah.
team? What's the day-to-day look like?
Yeah. So I'm just an individual agent. That's a good fit for me. That's part of why I love to get into real estate. Just wanted to be my, the classic line. I wanted to be my own boss. And um,
Mhm.
so I'm just an individual agent.
Yeah.
I'm here at Home Real Estate in Lincoln. I was telling Dom, we're owned by Berkshire Hathaway, so we're part of the Home Services of America
Family.
network. So I have great support through a full service brokerage, which I definitely take advantage of. And yeah, just an individual agent.
And if people are out there, let's talk. What's today? April 11th, 2025, in the Lincoln market. What's a good piece of advice for people out there that are looking at maybe when do I list or when do I buy? Right? What's that market looking like today?
Sure. Yeah, it's prime time for listing. I've been saying that the past month. It's spring. Even in my neighborhood, I was telling Dom I have a new listing today. The listings are coming on, so it's a great time to list.
Yeah.
Buyers, it's been steady in Lincoln. I would say the first quarter of the year was steady. We keep hoping that it'll maybe rev up a little bit, but we have more listings than we've had since before COVID. We're getting more sales in
Awesome.
Lincoln than we've had before COVID. So it feels like we're kind of creeping up to some older levels, which is great to see. Having more than a historically low number of listings on the market, which is great for
That's right.
buyers too. You can look a little bit. You don't always have to, decide within an hour if you want to buy that house. You have a little bit of time. You have a few more options. So for buying, it's a good time. There's more here than there has been in years.
Well, I think that's a pro tip, because at the end of the day, a lot of people go, well, man, when's the right time to buy? Well, when the rates are low. Sure, you could say that. But at the end of the day, this is a normal rate market. When I got into the industry back in 2002, we were in a refi boom. The rates were at 6.5. And I think eventually they got down to 5.5. But in
Right,
that
right.
first year and a half, it was 6.5, right?
Mhm.
And the market was crazy, and everybody was like, this is just an amazing marketplace. It was about the lowest rates have ever been, right? And here we are, we're back in a similar marketplace, but people are still a little scared. And I get it, property's gone up, the economy's not great, right? But if you need to buy a home, the time to buy the house is not to wait until the rates are the lowest because of what Adam just said, right? What happens when the market drops down and the rates get better is everybody jumps feet first back into the market at the same time. So, as these homes are expanding and there's more property to look at in that Nebraska market, right? That also gives you a little bit more room for negotiation because when you get lower rates, everybody jumps to market at the same time. And when everybody comes to the market at the same time, that means that people start paying more money for houses because you're having to bid to get the house. And here's the other issue. A lot of the times people end up taking a house that they actually don't really love because they just want to win the bid to get advantage of that low interest rate. But the buyer that buys in the market right now, they get an opportunity to select the home that they really like. In addition to that, they have the opportunity for some negotiation, right? They're probably not going to have to spend over the top to win. Some markets you still do, right? But they get in at a great price point. The home's going to appreciate on average 5.5% per year. And when rates go down and everybody jumps back in the market, you're in the home that you already love. You're didn't overpay for that home. And I think that's one of the big points, right? You paid a reasonable price for that home and now you can refinance and you improve your position over anybody that waits for the market and didn't get the benefit of the appreciation of the home as well. So the home's going to go up and then it's going to go up again because everybody jumps in at the same time, right? So now, Dominic, I'm going to ask you, man. You're in the same marketplace. Are there programs out there right now to help make homes more affordable for consumers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have all kinds of, down payment assistance programs, if borrowers don't want to put as much money up front. You can also utilize, I'm telling a lot of people this right now, utilize like concessions that sellers will give you because a lot of listings are on the market right now. Utilize those concessions, and instead of taking down the purchase price, put it towards buying down that rate. So you can get into a house, with a lower rate than, on average. And, you're saving more money month to month than you would, taking 10K off the purchase price.
So, I've talked to a lender, Dom, and they told me that I didn't qualify for the local state funded DPA.
Well, that's great because we got another one. So, I mean, our DPA, it's a little bit more lenient than the state DPA. We're on board with the state DPA as well to have both options, but we got about 40 points lower on credit, no income, limits and all that stuff. So, really we can accumulate a wider sphere of buyers, that fit,
Yeah.
it's less of a unique niche.
So what I'm hearing, Adam, is there's homes on the market. This is a great time to get in. The spring season is amongst us. If you're a buyer that's looking to get into the market, this is a great opportunity for you because there is more inventory to cycle through. And Dominic, what I'm hearing from you is that there's financing opportunities there that can help make the rates lower or bring the down payments to where they're more achievable, even if you don't qualify for the state funded programs. And that's great. So that's a recipe for success. Right? I love it. I love it. Well, Adam, I would love to keep you here all day, my friend, but I know that you've got a lot on your agenda. You've got a listing that you got to get out there and take care of. What have we not covered today that we should have?
Um, I don't know. That's a pretty good intro there. That's
Yeah.
fun conversation.
Done pretty well, I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
appreciate you having me on. This is great.
100%, man. I'd love to have you back sometime too. It's always great to have repeat guests, right? Hey, back in action. What are you up to? What are you doing now, right? What are you doing now? Well, Adam, we know you're in Lincoln. What area do you service? Is it just Lincoln? Do you go outside of that radius?
Yeah, you know what? I do about an hour radius around Lincoln. So Lincoln is a growing community, but I can hit anywhere in Lincoln, and I'm happy to go to the surrounding communities too within about an hour.
Good stuff. And when the folks out there want to find you, how do they find you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, you can. Easy one to remember is just my website, livelincoln.net. So if you go to there, you can find all my info, and hit me up from there.
livelincoln.net. And
Got
if you didn't have time to jot that down, it's probably running right across the bottom of the screen. Or when you get stopped, just look in the description of the podcast. We're going to have all of that information right down there. And if you live in Lincoln or want to live in Lincoln, reach out to Adam and he's going to give you that great service. And who knows, man, maybe he's going to get a hat trick out of this thing and sell 3 houses at the same time. You never know.
Right, that's
We'll
the goal.
see what
That's the
happens.
goal.
So.
Yeah.
Dominic, Dom, the man, Arias. When the folks out there want to find you, brother, you do lending. Are you just in Nebraska?
No, so I do Nebraska and then our neighbor state, Iowa, and then I also do California, which is where I'm originally from. But yeah, I'm all over social media. I try to stay pretty active there. So Facebook, Instagram, you can give me a call on my personal cell phone. All that information can be found. Like Adam, you can just go to a website. It's called domarias.com. It's pretty original. Just, you can Google that. It'll bring you to everything you need to go. Like, social media, phone number, everything. So.
You guys make it too easy. Well, 2 true professionals in the marketplace, and that marketplace today is Lincoln, Nebraska. So if you're tuning in and you're looking in Lincoln, Adam Wiekamp is the man. So, hey, thanks, brother. We truly appreciate you joining us today, and want you to get out there and enjoy a little weekend along with your listing. We know the life of a realtor never stops. So thanks again for joining us today, brother.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
100%. Well, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap today. So we're the Real Estate Success Partner, and you probably already know that because you're here. But if you don't, hey, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, DM if you've got questions. We're always here to answer them. And hey, thanks for stopping in today. We will see you on the next one.